I'm Elamine Abdul Mahmoud, and this is Pop Chat. Today on the show, we are talking about the very big Schitt's Creek sweep at the Emmys and what it might mean for Canadian TV. And also, we're going to talk about the sexist double standards when it comes to celebrity news. That is all on Pop Chat today. I'm relatively recent to Schitt's Creek. I really watched it kind of in the back half of last year, and I fell in love with it. I did not fall in love with season one. I did not fall in love with season two. By the time it got to season three, I was like, this show is a beautiful show, and it should be preserved because it's gold. So is this sweep a sign of the times? Have Emmy voters been comfort watching Schitt's Creek? Is that how we ended up here? And more importantly, is this going to actually mean more investment in Canadian creators? Kathleen, I'm going to start with you because I saw you live tweeting the Emmys just as I was. Tell me, what was your reaction to the first hour of the show just being Schitt's Creek, Schitt's Creek, Schitt's Creek, Schitt's Creek?
Well, putting all the comedy together was a choice, which I think led to Schitt's Creek fatigue, I will say. But yeah, I was excited from, working on a Canadian talk show for a long time and writing about Canadian TV. I feel like I've kind of been on this journey with the Schitt's team a little, and they are all incredibly nice, good people. But I also wasn't surprised. I mean, every time that show won, I was like, okay, it's Eugene Levy, it's Catherine O'Hara, it's in its final season, it's a very white show. It's got the combination of all the things that the Emmys love to honor. And yeah, I was excited. I was not surprised. And then I was a little bit disappointed because I love Insecure so much and it got zero love on Emmy night.
Of course you love Insecure so much. You're a future president of HBO. I get it. However, here's one thing that I'm interested in is that Schitt's Creek was nominated last year also. And then the years before that, it didn't really get a lot of attention. So, Andrea, I'm curious about all this attention that it got for its final season, a season that I should mention was taped and done before the show got big. Like that kind of made it pretty interesting for me. Were you at all surprised at the fact that like this show became so big in a year when everybody was trapped at home wanting something nice to watch?
No, because that's actually how I came to it. I had delayed gratification in this Schitt's Creek sense as well. I didn't watch it until I think I started in December, and then I ended up sick at home for the first 2 months of the year, like COVID or something. And that's when I really binged it all. I also just think that it moving to Netflix a couple of years ago was a substantial factor in how people were able to access it and watch it. It's like the kind of show that is, it's a show set in a place where there's no homophobia. There's no racism, largely because it's a mostly white cast. There's no sort of conflict outside of between characters and themselves and their own journeys to sort of betterment. So it makes sense to me why this is like a comfort food for so many people. You actually watching the show kind of feel like you're a better person than you are. And that's very appealing to Emmy voters because like, honestly, if you like read any of the Variety stuff where people were predicting those anonymous things where you were predicting what was going to win, like some of those Emmy voters are trash human beings. And watching a show like Schitt's Creek just makes them feel, by extension, a better source of life.
Sarah, this is really nice television. Like it's overwhelmingly nice. And it made people feel good, as Andrea said. Is it really the best show of the year?
No, and I had the same Schitt's Creek journey, but I just gave up because I'm like, why do I have to watch
3 seasons of a show, invest that much time for it to be good, which is like almost, when you think about it, the most Canadian thing ever, which is like everything you're just like, yeah, you know what? Like, let's give it time. It gets better. Give it time.
Wait,
and I just
why is that a Canadian thing?
I feel like that's like any Canadian show, that's exactly what someone says to me. Just give it time. Give it a few seasons. But I think it was, a really, exactly as Andrea said, it makes people feel good. And it's a safe kind of choice that breaks a mold a little bit because it is surprising for people who, like, as popular as a show is online and on Netflix, there are plenty of people who've never heard of Schitt's Creek. Like, we're Canadian. We've been hearing about it since it started. Americans I know have been watching it because of Netflix when it was, got on Netflix like a few years ago or whatever. Yeah, like Schitt's Creek had all this time to grow and turn into something that people found really beautiful and compelling. And I just think that there's, you don't really see shows that represent all of Canada who are given that chance, or kind of, do you know what I'm trying to say? Where it's just kind of, I do wonder how many shows that aren't predominantly white will be given the chances that Schitt's Creek has when it comes to funding, chances and all that type of stuff.
What does true empowerment even feel like? Is it feeling wanted? Is it commanding someone's attention? Eventually, Jonathan will run out of unseen, crusty Polaroids, but I will remain as a real Emily, the Emily who owns the high art Emily, and the one who wrote this essay too. She will continue to carve out control where she can find it. That is an excerpt from a recent New York Magazine essay written by model and actress Emily Ratajkowski. In it, she talks about a photographer, Jonathan Leader, who shot her for a magazine spread years ago, but he held on to nude Polaroids and then he republished them without her consent. He even created a book out of them. He did some gallery shows. Andrea, let me start with you. When you read that Emily Ratajkowski essay, what was your reaction?
Well, I thought that she was doing a lot of heavy lifting about consent on a lot of levels. Connection between her body, her agency, commodification of her image and copyright, her own sexual assaults, and the sort of sexist and misogynistic exploitation that she's experienced, as well as the violation of her rights. So we know it's all related, but I think Emily's essay makes it very clear. She maps that for us very well, how they all inform each other. It was a very moving, angering essay.
Chris Evans had a bit of a nude leak that happened the same week that essay dropped. But he handled it in such a way that was like, well, anyway, let's just laugh about this and move on. Why do you think Chris, who's absolutely the very symbol of all of the patriarchy, can get away with something like that, Kathleen?
His women fans flooded Twitter. If you were searching for his dick pic, they flooded Twitter with nice images of him with dogs, him at hospitals visiting sick children. Where was that energy when the nude photo leak happened and we saw Jennifer Lawrence naked? We saw Vanessa Hudgens naked. There was none of that energy. There was a lot of judgment being laid. So, what I did, because #feminism, is I just objectified him and looked at his dick with my group chat. And I said, is this a pretty penis or is it not? And that's what we did for equality.
I want to be on your group chat. I'm really sad that I missed out on that.
Thanks again, Sarah Hag, Andrea Warner, Kathleen Newman-Bermang. Thank you for joining me on Pop Chat, the show where we help make sense of the cultural drama blowing up the internet and then just laugh for a while. I'm your host, Elamine Abdul Mahmoud. Let's do this again next week.